Some burdens are visible. The cane that steadies uncertain steps, the tremor in aged hands, the careful way a body moves through space when gravity has become an adversary. Other burdens remain hidden beneath winter coats and rolled-down sleeves, carried in silence for decades. Too heavy to name, too sacred to forget. On a cold February morning in Providence, Rhode Island, both kinds of burdens walked through the doors of municipal court. At 10:15 precisely, the courtroom doors opened with their familiar creak. Judge Frank Caprio glanced up from the morning docket, the usual parade of parking violations and minor infractions that filled Tuesday mornings with bureaucratic rhythm. What he saw made him pause. The man who entered moved like water, finding its way around stones. Deliberate, careful, adapting to obstacles. 82 years old, according to the paperwork. Robert Johnson. A $75 parking ticket for failing to display a handicap permit at the VA Medical Center. 3 minutes, tops. Show the permit. Waive the fine, next case. But Judge Caprio had spent 3 decades reading people the way others read books. And something about this man demanded closer attention. Despite the walking cane, despite the obvious frailty, despite the heavy winter coat worn in an overheated courtroom, Robert Johnson stood with his shoulders squared and his chin level. The posture was unmistakable, spine straight, weight balanced, eyes forward. Once a Marine, always a Marine. "Mr. Johnson," the judge began, his voice carrying the practiced gentleness that had made him legendary beyond Providence. "You're charged with parking in a handicap space without displaying your permit. The violation occurred on February 8th, outside the Veterans Administration Medical Center." "Yes, Your Honor." The voice that answered carried decades of command, roughened by time but still precise. "I have a permit, I just forgot to hang it that day." In 30 years on the bench, Judge Caprio had heard this explanation perhaps 1,000 times. Usually, it ended with a reduced fine and a reminder to be more careful. But something in the way Johnson said those words, "forgot," carried a weight that numbers on a citation couldn't capture. "Can you tell me about your disability?" The judge set down his pen, a gesture his court staff recognized immediately. Real conversation was about to begin. "Help me understand why you need the permit." Johnson shifted his weight, leaning more heavily on the cane. His eyes moved from his hands to the gallery, to the floor, landing everywhere except on the judge's face. "I'd rather not discuss it, Your Honor." Pride. Judge Caprio recognized it instantly. The kind that keeps men standing when their bodies beg them to fall. That transforms vulnerability into something shameful rather than human. The judge rose from his bench and walked around to eliminate the barrier between them. "May I call you Tank?" The change was immediate. Johnson's chest expanded, shoulders squaring even more impossibly straight. For the first time since entering, something resembling a smile flickered across his weathered face. "United States Marine Corps, Your Honor. 3 tours of duty." 3 tours. Judge Caprio repeated the words with appropriate reverence. "Where did you serve?" Tank took a breath that seemed to draw from somewhere deep and painful. "Vietnam, 68 to 70. Iraq, 2004 to 05. Afghanistan, 2007 to 08. The courtroom, which had been conducting its usual low hum of activity, went quiet. The math was staggering. This man had served in Vietnam in his 20s then, after a full civilian life, after reaching an age when most people measured their days in grandchildren and golf games, had volunteered to return to combat. Iraq in his 60s, Afghanistan in his 70s. Tank. The judge's voice softened further. "You served our country in 3 different wars across 4 decades. That's extraordinary dedication." He paused. "Can you help me understand why you need the handicapped permit? What's really going on?" Tank looked around the courtroom. 30 or so people in the gallery, court officers, other defendants, a few reporters. His hands trembled more noticeably against the cane's handle. It's complicated, Your Honor. We're all friends here. There's no judgment in this room. What happened next would be replayed millions of times across the internet, shared and reshared until it became something larger than a simple court proceeding. A cultural touchstone, a reminder of costs that never appear on balance sheets. Very slowly, as if each inch revealed required a separate act of courage, Tank began rolling up his sleeves. The scars came first. Deep, jagged lines carved by shrapnel, marking his forearms with the topography of violence. But the scars weren't what made the courtroom inhale collectively. On Tank's right forearm, running from wrist to elbow in small, precise lettering, was a list. A long list. 47 names in black ink, each one a testament written in permanent marker on impermanent flesh. Tank. Judge Caprio's voice emerged barely above a whisper. What are those names? For the first time since entering the courtroom, Tank's composure fractured. His voice, which had maintained its military steadiness through 2 wars' worth of briefings and debriefings, cracked like old leather. Those are my boys, Your Honor. Every Marine I lost under my command. 47 names across 3 wars. He looked down at his arm, as if seeing it for the first time. I carry them with me everywhere I go. Silence filled the room, like water rising. Court officers who had seen every variety of human drama found themselves blinking rapidly. The stenographer's hands stilled on the keys. Tank wasn't finished. The handicapped permit. It's not for physical wounds. I mean, my legs don't work like they used to. My back is shot from carrying gear for so many years. But that's not why I really need it. He looked directly at Judge Caprio now. It's for the days when the ghosts are so loud I can barely function. When I'm having a panic attack in a parking lot and I need to get inside quickly before I break down in public. When the flashbacks hit so hard that I can't walk straight, can't think straight, can't remember where I am or what year it is. The judge's eyes glistened. You're telling me you have post-traumatic stress disorder from serving our country in 3 different wars? Yes, sir. Most days I'm fine. I get up, make my coffee, do my physical therapy exercises. I live my life. Tank's voice dropped lower. But some days. The memories of watching my boys die, the sound of mortars, the smell of gunpowder and blood. He gestured weakly toward the citation Judge Caprio still held. February 8th. That was one of my worst days in months. I was sitting in my truck outside the VA having flashbacks so bad I thought I was back in Fallujah. All I could think about was getting to my therapy appointment before I completely lost it. I forgot about the permit, forgot about the rules, forgot about everything except getting help. What Judge Frank Caprio did next violated every protocol in the judicial handbook. It defied the formal separation between bench and defendant, between authority and supplicant. It would be discussed in law schools and ethics committees, praised and criticized in equal measure. He began removing his black judicial robe. Tank, I want you to put this on. Your Honor, I can't. That's your robe. I'm just a defendant. Judge Caprio's voice carried the firmness of a man who had made an irrevocable decision. You're not just anything, Marine. Put on the robe. With shaking hands, Tank allowed the heavy black fabric to be draped over his shoulders. It hung on his diminished frame, but somehow wearing it, he looked more dignified than most men do in tailored suits. Then, Judge Caprio, standing in his shirt sleeves in his own courtroom, did something unprecedented in American legal history. He saluted, a federal judge saluting a defendant. Ladies and gentlemen, he announced, his voice carrying to every corner of the room. I want you to look at real American heroism. This man volunteered to serve our country not once, not twice, but 3 times across 6 decades of his life. He carries the names of fallen heroes on his skin and their memory in his heart. He has sacrificed more for our freedom than most of us can imagine. And he came here today worried about a $75 parking ticket. The courtroom erupted. People stood, some saluting alongside the judge, others simply applauding through tears. Court officers, who had maintained professional composure through thousands of cases, openly wept. Other defendants, moments before concerned only with their own citations, rose to honor this stranger who had borne such extraordinary weight in silence. Tank stood there in the judge's robe, tears streaming down his weathered face, overwhelmed by recognition he had never sought and perhaps felt he didn't deserve. Tank, not only am I dismissing this fine completely, Judge Caprio continued, but I'm making you an honorary member of this court. Anytime you need help, anytime the ghosts get too loud, anytime the system fails you, you call us. This courtroom will always have your back. He paused, letting the applause subside. And those 47 names on your arm? They're not just your burden anymore. This whole courtroom family is going to help you carry that weight. The video went viral within hours. 5 million views in 24 hours. 10 million in 48. The comments section became a memorial wall where thousands of veterans and their families shared their own stories of invisible wounds and unacknowledged sacrifice. A GoFundMe campaign, started by a stranger who had watched the video, raised over $500,000 for veteran PTSD programs. Major corporations reached out to Tank, wanting his insight on better supporting veteran employees. The Department of Veterans Affairs launched a new mental health awareness campaign inspired by his story. But the most profound change happened quietly, 6 months later, when Tank returned to Judge Caprio's courtroom. Not as a defendant, but as a volunteer counselor, helping other veterans navigate the labyrinth of legal and medical systems that were supposed to serve them. Judge Caprio didn't just dismiss a parking ticket that day, Tank told reporters. He reminded me that my service mattered, that my brothers who didn't make it home mattered, that I wasn't just some broken old man taking up space in the world. He gave me a reason to keep fighting, not just for myself, but for all the other veterans struggling in silence. Today, Tank speaks at schools about military service and veteran mental health. He's helped over 200 veterans get connected with proper care and support. He still carries those 47 names on his arm, but now he also carries something else. The knowledge that their sacrifice has meaning, that recognition delayed is not recognition denied, and that sometimes the most profound justice happens not in the letter of the law, but in the spirit of humanity that transcends it. Some burdens are too heavy to carry alone. Some debts can never be fully repaid. But sometimes, in a courtroom on a cold February morning, when an old Marine reveals what he's been hiding and a compassionate judge recognizes true sacrifice, the weight becomes bearable. Not lighter, just bearable. And sometimes that makes all the difference.